Hi, my name is Zachariah Van Sliders with Old Man Gaming, and this is a Borderlands 3 build video. Now, the person who has done this build video is Philbilly330. He's been wanting to do these build videos for a while. If you've watched other stuff on our channel, you're familiar with him on the podcast and him on Borderlands 330, our weekly show. And I'm really happy he decided to do these videos on my station for us. This is very nice. So, what you're watching on the screen right now is him using this video to solo take down Wotan on Mayhem 4 mode, which anybody out there who plays Borderlands knows just how difficult that is. So now with Wotan probably going down in the next minute here, he is going to go ahead and start and show you the ins and outs and get very in depth with how to build your Flak character to do what he's doing right now. So I don't want to spoil anything. I want to let him take it from there, but I do want to give a shout out to him for, again, choosing our channel to do these videos for. So thanks, Philbilly, and enjoy.
Initiating streaming line.
Take down in the service of death.
Brilliant work, Vault Hunter. That ass kicking will make Mandalorian think twice before they come at us again.
Death? Do you see me?
Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Philbilly330. You guys just saw my Wotan kill with this build. I call this the Mandalorian Flak. So I just wanted to share this with y'all. And alright, let's get into the game. Continue. Alright, so the whole idea of this build is to stay in fadeaway, or to get in and out of fadeaway as fast as possible. That way you're going to see with some of the gear we use elemental anointments, so that'll allow us to get in and out of the damage as fast as possible. So what we're going to do is as soon as we load in, we'll go respec, and then I'm going to go through the skill trees, and we'll go through that together, and I'm not going to bore you with reading every single thing. I'm sure by now most of you guys know the basics of what these skills do for the character, but I'll go over a brief of what I was thinking. I've actually optimized it even a little bit more for you guys from what you saw, but I'll explain it. There's some wiggle room for you guys to play around with in this build, and just so you are aware, any of the footage you see of the Malon takedown, that was actually all before they made it so it's 1-player difficulty. That was all at the 4-player difficulty. It was filmed before Christmas. So we'll start with the red tree here. We're gonna start with 3 points into Leave No Trace, as that's going to help us get as much ammo back as possible. It's a pretty good skill, and for the most part pretty reliable to keep down on the reloads, especially with the weapons we're using. Now we're going to stick, for now, and this will be some of where you guys can play around with the points, but we're going to stick 2 points for now into Interplanetary Stalker. And I know you guys are thinking this is one of his greatest skills, and it is, but Trust me, there's a method to the madness. What this skill does is you get a straight damage bonus per stack. It can stack up to 3 times, and then you also get bonus damage depending on what type of enemy you're facing, and it's a kill skill. So we're going to stick 2 into that for now. We're going to go down to head count. This is going to allow us to, with the most critical hits, or the more critical hits we get, it'll lower the cooldown of our action skill. So this is a fadeaway build. So this will allow us to get in and out of fadeaway as fast as possible. So we'll dump 3 into that. Again, we'll come back to this skill, but for now, we're going to be putting 2 points in the Hunter's Eye to get down to the next skill tier. And this helps you out depending on, it's a kill or a hunter skill, and it'll help you out depending on what type of enemy you're facing. Critical hit damage versus humans, armor damage versus robots, and damage reduction versus beasts. So we'll pop 2 into there. Come down into 2 Fang. It's a chance to fire an extra projectile per shot. Now, because of some of the guns we're using in this build, it's a very good skill to have, so we're going to dump 5 into it, and we'll go over it later. If you're using all multi-pellet, weapons, this might not be the choice for you, but I'll explain as we get in. So that's going to be a straight, pretty much 25% damage bonus to some of the guns that we're using. We're going to pop 3 into Big Game, which it increases the effectiveness of any of the hunter skills, which we're running a lot of them in this build. And then Most Dangerous Game, again, we're going to pump 3 into that. When this is also going to augment our damage as well. And this skill lasts, I think it's 2 minutes once it's popped. So that'll keep you going with some kind of hunter skills from, area to area if you have a lull in the action. We're going to drop 1 into Galactic Shadow, which we deal increased critical damage, and enemies are less likely to attack us. So obviously with a build that's completely revolving around crits, this is definitely a good skill to have, especially for a 1-point investment. Now, we're really trying to get down to Megavore. So, as you can see, we need to dump 3 more points into the tree to unlock this. So, the method to my madness here is I'm going to come back up between these 2 skills for me right now. So, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to pop 1 point into Interplanetary Stalker, and that's because you guys will see that the reason I'm only putting 1 here is because the class mods that we're going to be using for this build, they're going to put a lot of investment into this, and it becomes a balancing act as to mathematically where you're going to get the most damage out of it. And I think I've figured it out. So hear me out. We'll pop 1 into there, and then we'll drop our other 2 into Hunter's Eye. And that's, it's a little more situational, but again, you'll see where we're going with the gear we got. So then we can get Megavore, which is going to give us a chance to score critical hits, even if you're shooting the guy in the foot. You get a 20% chance to score crits, which is going to proc your head count, which will get you back into fadeaway as fast as possible. So we don't do anything with the blue tree in this build. If they do a level cap increase, there's a good possibility we will. But for now, we're just going to bump over to the green tree, which is where we're going to snag our fadeaway. And then we're going to go 5 points into Furious Attack, which is another hunter skill. And each stack gets you gun damage, handling, pet damage. Really, we're looking at it for the gun damage itself. So we'll pop 5 into that. We're also going to come over here and we're going to pop 5 into Self-Repairing System. So Flak has the disadvantage to a lot of other characters that he is a little, he's not super tanky. So he's not super tanky, so we're going to need these points to get some health regen, and it's also going to increase our max health. So we'll pop 5 into there. Okay, and then from there we're going to come down to all my BFFs. We're just going to drop 1 point into this. This is going to help keep our pet alive a little bit longer because he's going to share some of our health regeneration. We're also going to go down here into lick the wounds. We're going to drop a point there. That's if we get the opportunity and our pet's alive and we go down. As you'll see in some of my gameplay, I'm not the most pro player out in the world, so I do go down, and there's been times where my pet has been my saving grace in all this. So we're definitely going to go 3 into turn, tail, and run. While we're moving, we're going to constantly get health regeneration, and when we're standing still, we'll gain gun damage and fire rate. Now, it's hard to stand still in some of this higher end content. However, we're able to do that at times just because of the fact that we're in fadeaway, so we can kind of get our flak into position and be able to hang out and fire off some shots. We're going to go 3 into Fast and Furious, more gun damage. Alright, we're going to go 2 into Hidden Machine, and this is just straight up more damage, and it's not just gun damage, it's, you'll get more grenade and action skill damage out of it. And here's another place you guys can play around with points if you want. You can use your last 2 points into Hidden Machine if you feel that you need the damage, but I've found we're doing so much damage as it is that I like a little bit more survivability, so I go in the last 2 into Rage and Recover and get some more health regen out of it. Now, the strange thing about this build to most crit builds you guys are going to see out there is we are not going into Gorillas in the Mist. We are actually going to go into Not My Circus and Unblinking Eye, and either Until You Are Dead or Not My Circus. That's all up to you. So Not My Circus, what it's going to do is when you're done with Fadeaway, your pet is going to taunt the areas in the enemies in the area. And where Until You're Dead, the health regeneration and movement speed from Fadeaway is going to continue through. And we're going to be getting back into Fadeaway so fast that we should be able to basically carry this health regen into our next Fadeaway pop, as long as that it's a pretty enemy dense area. So we're going to go, I usually go into Until You Are Dead, just because I find that in a lot of cases, my pet kind of commits suicide, but there's times I use it. Like in the Wotan fight, Not My Circus is a waste, because he just goes in and he dies right away. So as far as what pets you're going to run, this is totally up to you. You can run, sometimes I like to run the Gunslinger Jabber to get that extra crit damage. And what's nice about the Gunslinger is I find that he kind of stays out of the combat a little bit because he's shooting an SMG. So he sometimes stays alive a little bit better for me. But the other one I like to choose sometimes is the Spider Ant Scorcher, because I'll get some health regeneration and as well as elemental damage, which is going to come in handy because we're going to go ahead and go over our gun choices. So that's your skill build. Now, as far as what weapons we use, I'm going to point out, I don't even know why that's in there, I'm going to point out some guns that we use in certain situations first, and then I'll show you our main loadout. So this gun, the double penetrating pneumatic bang stick, this is what I like to use for my straight damaged single target enemies when you don't have any ads around. So like if I'm going in and I'm farming Trant, or I'm going in to farm Grave Ward, this is what you're going to use. You're going to switch it to sticky mode, you're going to go into fadeaway, you're going to load them up, and then you're going to, sometimes what I want to do, if I want to one-shot that enemy, I'm going to go with the trick Unforgiven because of its 432 crit damage bonus, and I'm going to load them up with stickies, and then I'm just going to swap to the Unforgiven. And I'm going to play a clip right now, and this is going to show you this playstyle against Grave Ward.
Let them hear your rage.
Okay guys, so now you've seen the Grave Ward kill. So you see what I was saying, how you're going to want to load up the enemy in their crit spot, so that way you can get as many sticky shots on target, and then crit swap over to the Unforgiven. You don't have to. That's just to make it super fast, and you can take them down in one clip like that. You can also, if you're going up and you want to do the same thing against an enemy that doesn't have as big of a crit swap, you can always swap over to Gorillas in the Mist just for that particular situation. That way you can get more guaranteed crit shots off with the bang stick here. But as far as normal play, so you guys saw me in my clips. I was running the Maggie, which is a great gun. The thing I found recently that is slightly more optimized, so I found this Dastardly Stagecoach, which is just a purple gun, Jacob's gun, but as you can see, so you got your 501 damage times 6 pellets from the Maggie, and then from the Stagecoach you have 327 damage but times 16. Well, what I found recently is I'm a little better off running the Stagecoach over the Maggie, just because I mean, this is a great gun, don't get me wrong, but the only reason is those 16 shots. So remember, we went in over here down to Megavore, which gives us that 20% critical chance. So let's say I missed every legitimate crit with the Maggie, then 20% of 6 is, like one free crit out of it, but 20% of 16 is like 4, 3.5, whatever. So I found that I get back into fadeaway a little bit faster with the Stagecoach, because I can put out more crits to one enemy, plus all those crits are going to bounce to another enemy because of either of these guns being a Jacobs, and I have a chance to crit on them. So that's why I'm using the Stagecoach here as my ace slot. So yeah, that's what we're going to run there. It's also got, the one I got has a pretty good anointment on it on action skill, and the damage is increased by, critical damage is increased by 25%. And that's great just because we are going in and out of our action skill so frequently. And that's the reason why we're not running Gorillas in the Mist, because we only get 3 shots, so we fire those 3 shots, and then you're getting this bonus. Well, then if you get back into it, the short time is like 10 seconds, so if you get back into it in 5 seconds, which sounds unbelievable, but it happens all the time, you're getting that bonus on top of crits, and then it just keeps cycling. You're always getting these action skill end bonuses. So for this build, the guns you are going to want are going to have these action skill bonuses. And I don't even have perfect gear. Like, if this was perfect, there's a stagecoach out there that has a 25 pellet count. I haven't found one, and it probably would be a little better if this was on action skill and 100 times weapon damage, but like my Maggie is. But I haven't found that for that particular gun. So our second slot is a great gun for mob clearing, which I'm sure everyone knows this, the Brainstormer. So what it's going to do is, the more enemies around, the more damage it does, because it chains them together. And we have the 100% action skill anointment on that. Now what you can do too, I don't have one, but another option for you guys would be to, if you were having survivability issues in those big mobs, you could get the on action skill and gain lifesteal. That would be a good one for this gun too, because you're going to be, that's when you're going to probably have the most trouble going down, when you get overwhelmed. And when you're in that situation, this is the gun you're most likely going to be running. It's going to strip shields, and you might think, oh, that doesn't do much damage to health or armor bars, but we're going to make up for that, and I'll show you where in just a minute. So our third slot, what I typically like to do is I will run the new ion cannon, and what that's going to do is, it's going to be, if I go down, this is going to be what I'm swapping to get myself up, get a kill, because this thing does so much single target damage. Now, I have one in every element, depending on the situation. In the Wotan fight, you probably saw me using the corrosive one for obvious reasons. Unfortunately, I don't really have good anointments on these, so you guys might even have a leg up on me. But yeah, so for now we'll put on our normal one, because we're just assuming this is a situation where there's tons of different enemy types. So, but that's going to be my third slot. Sometimes I'll run 2 ion cannons, it all depends on what situation I'm in, but I'm a big fan of, for some crowd clearance, I'm still a big fan of the lump. Unfortunately, I only have a good one in shock and corrosive, but I do run the corrosive lump a lot, especially if I'm running slaughter shaft, or because there's all different types of health bars there, shield, health, and armor. And I find that my personal bane is typically armor in those situations, because my other guns can handle with the health and the shields fairly well. So I like to run the lump, and if you guys don't know how this works, this is a shredded, it's a ×2. What it's going to do is, you're going to shoot it over a crowd of enemies' heads, and it's going to chain. After we're done with this build, I'll land a clip out there of my slaughter shaft run, and I believe I used this in that, and shoot it over their heads, and it chains all the enemies together, and then when it hits a wall or blows up, all those enemies get damaged by it. So this is my main gun loadout. Like I said, sometimes this will get swapped out for maybe another ion cannon, and unless I'm doing boss fights, like I said, then I might run the Torg Sticky and the Unforgiven to crit swap. I do have the Kibsworth, because I love the gun. It's not necessarily the best gun for this build, but it can still do some work. Obviously, you got your Cutsmans. Those are pretty much good on every build out there. I got the Recursion. it's not the best roll you could have by any means, but it's a decent recursion, and what it does is it chains enemies as well. But for me, it seems a little too... There's some guys out there that are really good at using this weapon. I'm just a little inconsistent with it, so I'll play with it every now and then, but it's not typically making my main loadout. But so for shields, now here you got some options. I really like the stop gaps. It gives me that 5 seconds to be immune to damage, what's nice about this build, since I'm going in and out of fadeaway so much, if I'm in trouble and I get this immunity, I can pop into fadeaway, and because we're not running Gorillas in the Mist, I have a long time in fadeaway, so I can actually run away and let my shield recharge, and that way this reprocs and I can get my my immunity if I get into trouble again. So I like these. If I'm running the raid, I typically run Transformers because there's so many enemies, especially like the big shock heavies, that they'll just heal my shield for me, which is great. So what you will know about all of these weapons is they all have on action skill end, you gain a different element damage, 50% for 10 seconds, which is huge. So if I'm running the Brainstormer and I'm running the raid, if I put the Brainstormer on and I have this game bonus 50% corrosive damage, now I'm doing shock and corrosive damage with that one gun. So that's where things are starting to get crazy here. And I do the same thing with the grenades. So the grenades, they don't really scale that amazing damage-wise in Mayhem 4. However, I barely even throw them, but I'm using them to get this bonus elemental damage. And I do have a incendiary one somewhere, probably in my bank. But so it just depends what I'm running, what I want to put element-wise together. So like, let's say I was doing the raid, I got the corrosive shield on right now, so I'm gonna want something to strip shields, but I also want something that's gonna hit health, let's say. So I'm gonna go with radiation because it's good against them both, but it sucks against armor. But that's okay because I got my armor damage right here at the bonus corrosive damage. So that's what I was saying about this build that's so crazy, is you're going in and out of fadeaway so much, you're almost always having these bonus damages. Like if you could get a 100% bonus damage on these guns as well, then that's even better. You're one up on me. But unfortunately, RNG is not always the friendliest to me. So this is what I got, and it, as you guys saw, even with me who's not a flawless player, it works out well. So then for our class mod, I either tend to run the Cosmic Stalkers or the Bounty Hunter. And some of you might be asking why I'm not running the new Flak stack bot, and that's because I have found through testing that it's a little bugged right now. So unfortunately, dots, like damage over time that I apply, seems to reset the crit bonus from it. So because we're running those elemental types, it's not doing me justice. So I tend to run the Cosmic Stalker for just add heavy areas, like so the beginning of the raid and all that. And then I will, when I'm doing a boss fight, I'll switch to the Bounty Hunter, because the Bounty Hunter lets me treat bosses as either humans, beasts, and robotics. And it also has a chance to activate the hunt skills when just dealing damage as opposed to with a kill. So if there's no ads around to kill, you're not going to get the benefit of the stalker out of it. So that's when you're going to run the Bounty Hunter. But as I told you guys, the reason I didn't max out the this one, the Interplanetary Stalker. That was because my Cosmic Stalker has +4 to it. So with 3 points in, I'm still at a 7 out of 5. So that's why I chose to go with that. And even if I ran this one, I do have pretty good sub rolls on these with either crit damage, weapon damage, or shotgun. And this one has splash, shotgun, and weapon magazine size. So that helps out with my rocket launchers with the splash damage. And same with this one. I get the this is like rocket launcher perfect, you know, with the splash damage and the heavy weapon damage bonus. And then finally for the relic, I usually run one of 3. So Snowdrift is, don't pay attention to substats, it's not a very good Snowdrift. All I'm using this for is if I'm what do you call it, you know, just killing the same boss over and over to get this gun. This just helps me get to him real fast so my slide speeds up. Typically, although in combat, I like to run one of these two. I like the Flesh Melter because if I'm focusing on corrosive damage, which I tend to have like I said, armor seems to be my hardest thing to break personally, so I like to run a lot of corrosive guns. Well, this helps me to still, if I'm using corrosive against a flesh enemy, it helps me out there, and I can still get some bonus damage on them. But if I'm running the other shield, the transformer instead of the stopgap, I'll usually run the last stand auto idle because it gives me, it's not as good as the stopgap with its invulnerability just because it has a 40-second cooldown, but it gives me some invulnerability to work with. So I'll run that a lot as well. So yeah, this is pretty much the loadout. The reason, just to hammer it home so you guys don't think I'm nuts, the reason I said that this Two-Fang is so important in this build is just because the fact that I run these two guns, really. It doesn't really do much for these guns because going from 16 to 17 pellets isn't going to make a difference, and going from 14 to 15 really isn't going to make much of a difference. But with these, it helps me keep my ammo up too. So like, because it works really well, so say I'm shooting 2 orbs with the lump. Well, if I'm shooting 3 because of Two-Fang, it works nicely for head count, because each one of those, since they're chaining enemies, that's giving me a whole extra thing that's able to get crits for me, and crits, because I leave no trace, are going to get me ammo back. So that's how it all works out. And if you're ever like, I've done it before, I've cleared the starter shaft using nothing but the lump, and obviously with rocket launchers, ammo's an issue, but I'm chaining so many crits that I'm usually getting my ammo back. And what I'll tend to do if I'm doing something crazy like that is I'll run the Hunter Seeker, because the way that works is if I did run completely out of ammo, I'll just start whipping these out, not for damage, but because they actually have a chance to crit. And if you have that rocket launcher in your hand when the grenade crits, it's going to get you rocket launcher ammo too. So yeah guys, that's pretty much the build. If you guys have any questions or comments and even suggestions, I mean, I think I've gone over it pretty well. I've tested out this build pretty good. It's obviously a successful build. I truly don't have any issues in anything other than the raid, obviously, because that's the hardest content, and now it might not be that bad even because it's not always 4-player difficulty, like I was running it. But I've shown that even without the most precise gameplay, heck, you can do it solo at 4-player difficulty, and yeah, I think it went pretty well. I was never completely like scared that I was gonna blow it. But yeah, if you guys like this and hopefully it helps somebody out, I appreciate Zach for putting it up on the channel for me. After this, he's going to show a clip of me clearing out one of the, probably wave 5 of Slaughter Shaft, if you guys want to hang around and watch that. We also may be doing a build, or like a run through of the entire raid run that I did, that you guys saw the Wotan kill of. We'll do the entire raid with some commentary and make fun of me and how bad I kind of botched it, but it's still 100%ed it. So yeah, if you guys like this, if you have any suggestions on any other character builds or other styles you want me to do, I do have every character at max level, and I have some builds for everybody. So if you guys, the other thing I'll do for you is, if you guys are gonna throw Zach a like and a subscribe, I can even help you out getting some of these anointed guns that I got. I know that they're really tough to get, so if you're on Xbox, unfortunately I can't help you on PC or PlayStation because I play on Xbox, but if you guys need some help getting that gear, throw Zach a like and subscribe on Old Man Gaming, and I'll hook you guys up. Just give me a couple days, leave your gamer tag in the comments, and we'll go from there. But yeah, so you guys have a good one, and stick around and you can check out the little bit of Slaughter Shaft run. Later, guys.
Invincible! Decomposition suits you. Not that it would have mattered. I like your enthusiasm, Beast. Hunt is never ending. Got the business right where we want 'em. Complete. Yeah. Outrun.